Welcome to the second episode of Hall of Justice. I am Jeremy, or Justice as some of you might know me, hence the title. If this is your first time checking it out, I recommend you check out the first one. I'll link it below. But just a very, very quick overview of what this is. So basically, I've really enjoyed writing for 10 Ton Hammer over the last couple of years. I've written for the company. And I do a lot of written content, a lot of editorials. And I generally, try to keep things pretty professional, pretty civil. Even when I do have a strong opinion on something, I'll make that opinion known. But, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. That's not what I do. This format, I'm still not going to, suddenly turn into a completely different person. But it's some subjects feel like they need a little bit more of a direct and honest and, let's say, personal touch to them. And that's what we're here for. Today, we're going to be focusing a bit more on League of Legends. Last week, we talked about Hearthstone. Today, it's going to be League. And specifically, the eSports organizations that are part of League of Legends. So, you're running an eSports organization. A, no idea why you're watching this, but hey, thanks. And B, listen up. Here's the thing. We have talked a lot, and by we, I mean the community as a whole and the people involved in eSports, about the need for infrastructure within organizations. And we've talked about that's part of the reason why Korea has been so far ahead of the West, is their infrastructure has been a lot stronger, particularly among the top teams. There's been talk about how the bottom European teams have almost no infrastructure, and that's part of why they've been so bad, and there's been so much turnover in the EU LCS. This all makes sense, and it's absolutely true. You need a good coaching staff. You need a good support staff. The team needs more than just its players and an owner or manager. If you look at traditional sports, for example, you have a lot of different coaches. You have a lot of different people involved with any organization. That's not to say that esports is there yet, because there's a lot of people that work behind the scenes you never even see for your favorite baseball or football team or whatever. Not saying we need that much yet. But we do need good infrastructure, and some teams are getting better at that, particularly the larger teams. But there's one area in which they are really, really lacking. With all this talk about infrastructure and needing the right employees and support system, somehow something teams seem to be forgetting about is public relations. You want infrastructure? Hire yourself a PR rep. Please do that. And we'll go over a few examples real quick of why this is necessary. Let's start with Doublelift. Recently left Counterlogic Gaming. Not on great terms. That player has been with that organization seemingly since the beginning of League of Legends esports. It's not technically true, but it's felt that way. He's been there for a long time. He's been the face of that franchise. Recently left, signed with CLG's biggest rival, Team Solo Mid. Okay, that by itself is fine. Those kinds of things happen. What wasn't fine was when CLG's owner, Hotshot GG, took to Twitter, after a bunch of speculation about who was at fault. Was it the player or the organization? Spoiler alert, probably both. And said something along the lines of, whether or not to reveal the details. I don't know. What do you guys think? All right, that's BS, and you need to stop that right now. George, you know better than that. Seriously, you do. You've been around long enough to know that was dumb, okay? That was just asking for drama. He doesn't need Twitter to tell him whether or not he should reveal details about something. He knows what he's supposed to do. He was just creating drama for the sake of creating drama. Why would you do that? Makes no sense. And then Doublelift goes to TSM and spends part of his time there. I mean, yeah, part of it just on his personal stream, but still, he's representing the TSM brand now. Trash-talking CLG and saying things that he probably shouldn't have said. Bad idea. Okay? These things should not have happened. They are bad for the player. They are bad for the organizations. Nobody benefits from this. The only people that benefit are from people on Reddit that are looking for drama. Those are the people you need to be pandering to, not in this situation, and not to give them drama, because they're going to be there either way. Let's continue looking at TSM. Recently, they signed Sven Skaren as their jungler. Cool. Imported European player. TSM's good at that. No problem. No issues there. Where there were issues was when suddenly they had this whole thing with H2K because H2K was also trying to sign Svenskeren. And then all this stuff came out about how, H2K went after Sven first, and they made him an offer and he turned it down, and then, they didn't like the way he handled it, and they went to his mom about things, and supposedly thought TSM, more or less poached him out, right out from under them. And, H2K came back and saying that's not how things went down. This is why we talked to his mother because we were told to, and just a whole mess of things that should not have happened. Statements made by H2K that should not have been made, both as official statements and just as tweets from their owner. Statements made by TSM that probably shouldn't have been made or could have been made better. All of these things do not help when esports is still very young and is trying to establish itself as legitimate. All of this drama does not help. That's not to say that traditional sports never have drama. Of course they do. But stuff like this, owners of teams publicly going at each other all the time, doesn't happen. And if it does, there are generally pretty big consequences for it. The big difference is that traditional sports have public relations people to handle these kinds of things, either to make official statements on behalf of the team or to at least advise the people that are part of the team on how to appropriately conduct themselves so that they do not create PR nightmares for their organizations. This is needed, 100%. And any large esports organization, and I'm not going to call anybody out because there's plenty, any large esports organization makes enough money that they can do this. And I understand that I'm just willfully offering up other people's money and spending their money for them, and I understand that's easy to do. It'd probably be harder if it was my own money. But for the long-term health of your organization and for building esports as a whole, it is a necessary cost. Just as they've increased costs to sign high-profile players. Some players, not all of them in North America, Europe, especially in China, obviously, but in other regions too, are getting paid very, very well now. That's starting because you're getting bigger sponsorships. More money is coming into the scene, which is good. That is a good thing. But let's not make that a good thing for just the next 5 years. Let's try to keep that going. And the way you're going to do that, the way you're going to keep growing the scene and keep growing your own organization is you have to invest in it. In one of my favorite games of all time, Dungeon Fighter Online, there was a character named Danjin, and one of his quotes that he would yell at, he was an NPC, was always, you gotta spend money to make money. A, was hilarious because of the voice that he used, but B, was very true. You have to invest in the future. It's not just about right now. So while the organizations, and I understand not all can afford it, but the larger ones can. And they need to invest that money now, spend some money now, to ensure the long-term health of their organization. Because if sponsors see you as childish and immature and as just a constant PR nightmare waiting to happen, they are going to be more hesitant to invest in your brand. So you might spend less money now, but you are costing yourself money in the long run. Basically, my message boils down to this. It is up to the organizations to educate themselves and their players on how to conduct themselves better in the public eye. And that's not to say that everyone has to be censored and they can, only say these 3 sentences and any question must be answered very generically. No, you can still have your personalities, but they need to be educated on how to handle conflict and controversy in a way that does not make either the player or the organization or both look really bad and really immature. So again, major esports organizations, get on it. You need PR reps, you need good ones, established ones that know what they're doing. Hire them, please.